that pastor was be late today. And would I lead the discussion or the introduction, talk about the rapture in review? And
he's here now.
is he here now?
He's here.
Oh, praise the Lord. Okay.
Pastor, unmute yourself. Thank you, Russell. Ram in the bush.
Well, we have to be prepared in and out of season
Amen.
to share the word of God.
Amen.
So Naomi, you already prayed?
Yes, I
Yes.
did.
All right. So we're ready to roll.
Hi. Let's see.
Am I flowing good, Naomi?
Yes, you're on, Pastor.
Okay. All right. And I'm not freezing or anything because Naomi looks confused.
I hear a weird sound.
Oh, I'm having trouble.
All right. Is
Are you
that
speaking to
you,
me,
Naomi?
Pastor? Oh.
Okay. Am I good to go? Somebody give me a thumbs up.
Go ahead, Pastor. You're good to go.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. We're going to finish today dealing with the rapture. Thank you for your patience. Just got back from a funeral, so trying to get everything situated, and we'll roll on today and make sure that we finish up on the rapture. So I'm just going to run through my slides and not going to give a lot of commentary on stuff that we've already talked about, and get to the meat of today's lesson. All right, so the rapture is when Jesus comes back for his bride, the church, and that will be followed by 7 years of tribulation, a period known as the tribulation. The word rapture, again, is not in the Bible. It actually comes from a Latin word, which means to be caught up or snatched away. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 through 18, we see the concept of the rapture. It says that we will be caught up to meet the Lord in the air. And the word caught up actually is the Greek word harpazo, which means to seize or to catch up or to pluck out. So again, the word rapture is not in the Bible, but the concept is all through the scripture. We said there are 4 aspects of the rapture: coming back, coming out, coming up, and coming together. So those are the 4 aspects. Jesus comes back, the dead come out of the graves, the saints who are alive are come up, and then we all come together in heaven. Two views. Some people, premillennialists, which is a camp that I put myself in, we believe in the rapture. We expect the rapture, but there are two other groups, the amillennial and the postmillennial, and they don't believe that there's going to be a rapture. So they just believe Jesus will come back, and that's it. There's not going to be a rapture. Key passages: John 14, 1 through 3, 1 Corinthians 15, 51 through 54, 1 Thessalonians 4, 13 through 18. Three key passages on the rapture. Old Testament types of the rapture: Noah, his family was taken out of the world and put in the ark, and they were saved from judgment. And so Christ will take us out of the world before the tribulation, and we will be spared from the judgment. And so Noah was taken out of his day. And now the thing that makes this a type too, remember, is that Jesus said that as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. When he comes back, it's going to be just like that. So Noah and his family were taken out of the world, out of judgment, and they were saved. And then the other example is Lot. Lot and his daughters were taken out of Sodom and Gomorrah before it was judged. So though Noah and Lot are two types of the rapture. We talked about the difference between the rapture and the second coming. We're not going to go through this, but just keep in mind that the rapture is when Jesus comes in the air, and the second coming is when he comes back to earth. Okay, so there's a big difference between the two. All right, then we looked at the events of the rapture, step-by-step events. We looked at that in detail last week. Now I do like this. Let me just hit this again. The last trump, right? The Jesus said at the last trump, when the last trumpet sounds. And remember, we talked about the Feast of Trumpets, and that they sounded the shofar 100 times, and then when the last trump, the last sound, the 100th time, that's when the feast began. All right, but no one knew when the feast was going to begin until they heard the last trump. All right, so that concept comes out of there. Powerful teaching. Here's where we want to start today. We want to start with the history of the rapture. The history of the rapture. Now, I'm going to pretty much go through the notes, and I don't have my notes before me, so I'm gonna have to go from memory. But you guys have the notes, so if I miss something, you can bring it out. So I'll just so you have the details. You have all the in-depth details of the history of the rapture. All right. So the problem is that many people believe that the church never taught the rapture. They say that the church never said anything about a rapture, and that we really didn't hear about the rapture until the 1900s. And before that, there was no mention of a rapture. Well, you got some big problems there. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite Bible teachers believes that this theory, that there's no rapture, and that the church never taught that there would be a rapture. The Bible Answer Man, Hank Hanegraaff, one of my favorite Bible teachers. Love that guy. But he says that there's no rapture, and that the church never taught a rapture. But you got some serious problems with that, because when you look at the Bible, and we've looked at the verses, John 14, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, 1 Corinthians 15, you know, it speaks of a rapture. It talks about a catching away, a snatching up, going to the Father's house, Jesus coming back to take us away. So the Bible definitely teaches the concept of a rapture. How can you get around it? Now, I'll tell you how. Some of those verses that we use, they spiritualize them, and they'll say, well, you know, this is symbolic. You know, it's not meant to be taken literal. You know, it's symbolic, or they'll say that it refers to another point in time. So they explain those verses away. But how do you read those verses and not walk away with the concept that the Bible teaches the rapture? So the Apostle Paul, he taught the rapture in 1 Corinthians 15 and 1 Thessalonians 4. John, the apostle, the one who leaned on the breast of Jesus in John 14, he recorded the rapture. So you know, so the apostles believed that there was a rapture. Now, even a common greeting back in the early church, you know how the Jewish people would greet each other shalom, and that word shalom meant peace, right? So they would greet each other shalom when they were coming, right? Shalom. And then when they were departing, when they were leaving one another's company, they would use that term shalom, right? And it was a greeting, and it was the way the Jewish people greeted each other. Well, in the early church, they had a common greeting, and the common greeting was Maranatha. And the word Maranatha actually could mean he came or he's coming, right? So in the context of how they were using it, you know, it could have meant he came, right? But when we look at the context, it more often means he's coming, that and he's coming again, right? So a common greeting in the early church was the idea that, hey, Jesus is coming again. Jesus is coming again, and they look forward to the coming of Christ. All right. So, you know, that was so the apostles, you know, they spoke of the rapture. The early church, they looked for Jesus. Remember in Acts chapter 1, where Jesus was taken up into heaven from this earth. We call that the ascension. And two angels stood by, or it says two men in white apparel, that they stood by whenever Jesus was taken into heaven. And they said, you men of Galilee, why stand you here gazing at the stars? This same Jesus who was taken up from you will come again in like manner. And so the apostles on that day, when they saw Jesus taken up, they were looking for him to come again. They were anticipating Jesus coming again. So the term Maranatha, you know, and some people use the term Maranatha to mean come quickly. You know, when you remember that song, One Day at a Time, right? One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Lord, give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. And there's a line in that song that says, Jesus, you know, as you look here below, that is worse now than then. It's worse, you know, things are a lot worse now than they were then. And so the mantra that we should have, I mean, again, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to going into our new building and you know, anticipating that. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. If Jesus was to come, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad that I didn't get a chance to go into that new building. As much as I'm looking forward to it, I'm looking forward more to the blessed hope. I'm looking forward to that time when Jesus is coming back again. And you know, we call that the blessed hope. You know, in the church, that's what's known as the blessed hope, when Jesus comes back again. And so, you know, we thank God for the fact that he is coming again. All right. Now let's look at some of the early church fathers. And you know, again, you have this in your notes. So I'm not going to other than this one guy, Ephraim the Syrian. I want to talk about him under the church fathers. But you see that the church fathers, and when we say the church fathers, you know, we meant the leaders in the church throughout the history of the church, that the church fathers believed in a rapture. They actually believed in a rapture. And now look at this guy. He was a church father. His name was Ephraim the Syrian. He lived in the 4th century AD. He was a theologian, a writer, and a hymnologist. Look at some of the quotes. Now, again, people will tell us in the history of the church, it didn't talk about the rapture. Nowhere in the church did the church fathers talk about a rapture. You know, people were silent. And it was not until the 19th century that we started hearing about a rapture. Well, listen to some of the quotes by Ephraim the Syrian. For the elect shall be gathered prior to the tribulation. Okay, the elect, who is that? That's the church. Prior to the tribulation, that's the time of wrath. So he's talking about a rapture. He says, when we see the saints in glory flying off in light in the clouds of the air to meet Christ, King of glory. That sounds like a church father talking about the rapture to me. Another quote, indeed, the grace of God strengthens and rejoices the hearts of the righteous, and they shall, look at this, be seized up in the clouds to meet him. They shall be caught up in the clouds. It says, count us worthy, Lord. Oh, listen to this. Of the rapture of the righteous, when they meet you in the clouds, that we might not be tried by the bitter and inexorable judgment. All right. And then let me read this last one. He says, let us pray the Lord in great humility that he will take us out from the coming fear and count us worthy that the rapture, when the righteous are raptured in the clouds to meet the Lord, to meet the King of glory. Now, let me ask you something, saints. Is this or is this not evidence that the church fathers believed in the rapture? And yet, instead, we got people telling us that, you don't hear about any rapture till the 18th, 19th century. You don't hear about it till then. Nothing is said about it. Where are they doing their research at? All right. Replacement theology. And what replacement theology is, it says that Israel has been replaced by the church. That when you read all the stuff about Israel in the Old Testament, it says that all the stuff that talks about Israel and all the promises to Israel have been replaced by the church. And so this was the teaching, at the time, this was the teaching of the Catholic Church. They taught replacement theology. And because they were amillennialists, they didn't believe in a rapture. So the replacement theology people, because they didn't believe in a rapture, they didn't say anything about it. They suppressed. And as a matter of fact, anybody that said anything about the rapture, they suppressed it. And so this was the dominant voice, throughout the Middle Ages. And so no wonder we don't hear a lot about the rapture. And one reason is because it was suppressed, that the leadership in the church didn't believe in it. And again, I'm saying primarily the Catholic Church, because they were the dominant voice. They were amillennialists. They didn't believe in the rapture, so they suppressed it. They didn't say anything about it. And again, anybody that said anything, they tried to, put them down. They tried to discredit them. Then we see there was a resurgence of the rapture with the Reformation. When Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses and rebelled against, or should I say, put out reforms against the Catholic Church. All right. And then at that point, people started coming forward, with their teaching of the rapture. So there was a resurgence of the rapture teaching during the Reformation. All right. And then that's when we come into John Nelson Darby. And this is what people who oppose the rapture, they say, well, you don't hear anything about the rapture till John Nelson Darby. And he got it from some girl who was demon possessed, right? And so that's the big thing. So if you listen to these guys, if you listen to these people who say there's not going to be a rapture, they say, well, it didn't start until John Nelson Darby, who was, I believe a pastor, theologian, and they say that he was the first one that popularized it, and he actually got it from a demon-possessed girl in Scotland. So I got all that in your notes. So you got an advantage that you got the notes. I didn't print off my notes, so you got an advantage. You can read more. I'm trying to do the best I can from my memory. Now, even the thing with this demon-possessed girl, who they say that Darby got the whole teaching of the rapture from. If you read some stuff that was recorded about her, watch this. She believed that the church was going through the tribulation. So how did Darby get his stuff from a demon-possessed teenage girl, right? If she believed that the church was going through the tribulation, she didn't believe the church was going to be raptured out. So again, saints, that's why I love to study. I love digging this kind of stuff out here. And then they say, well, Darby was the one who started teaching it, and then Schofield. If you have a Schofield Bible, I have a Schofield Bible. I cut my teeth on Schofield. When I got saved, somebody gave me a Schofield Bible, Schofield Reference Bible. And so Schofield talks about the rapture in his notes. And they say that Darby was the one who started teaching the rapture, and then Schofield was the one who popularized it when he put it in his Bible. And so they argue that, well, you don't really hear about any rapture teaching until Darby and Schofield. But again, saints, I've just shown you that that's a lie. That's not true. The rapture has always been present. It's always been around, even though it was suppressed at one point by church leadership that didn't accept the rapture. They suppressed it, but yet and still, it was still there. It never went away. It's just that it didn't have the prominence at certain times that it always had. So I wanted to give you that because, again, as I teach on the rapture, everybody doesn't believe that there's going to be a rapture. Okay, so that's the first thing I want you to know. So I don't want you to be out there, thinking that just because somebody is a Christian and or say they love the Lord, that they're going to believe like you believe and believe that there's a rapture. So I want to let you know that there's probably a good majority of people out there, Christians, that don't believe the rapture. So again, that's the reason that I taught the history of the rapture. All right. Now, what about date setting and the rapture? What about date setting and the rapture? I remember, and some of you may remember this. There was a book, and I got it somewhere. It's in my library somewhere. I just didn't pull it up. The title of the book is 88 Reasons Why Jesus is Coming Back in 1988. All right. And that was a pretty popular book back in the day. So guess what happened when Jesus didn't come back in 1988? They said, well, he's coming back in 1989. And then he didn't come back in 1989. So what did they say? Many people like the Jehovah Witnesses say he came back spiritually, right? That he might not have came back physically or literally, but he came back spiritually. So, you know, again, once you start promoting that narrative that he's coming back, or, you know, and there's people today, you know, that say they know exactly when Jesus is coming back. And so they try to, you know, give a time. And then when he don't come back, because the Jehovah Witnesses, who is it, Russell, you know, he believed that Jesus was coming back. And then when Jesus didn't come back, he said that, well, he came back spiritually, right? So again, you know, you have to continue to promote that narrative. So, you know, I would say this, you know, if somebody tells you that they know when Jesus is coming back, then, you know, I would stop listening to them, because they're a false prophet, right? Because look what Jesus said in Matthew 24 and verse 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. So Jesus said, no one knows. And in one place he said, not even the Son. So I think I talked about that last week, that when Jesus came on this earth, that there were times that he chose not to know things. You know, he submitted his omniscience to the Father. And again, he didn't stop being God. You know, it's just like if you got if you're a millionaire, right? And you got millions of dollars in the bank. If it's just say, well, you know, you're going out and you're buying a car, and just say you buy, and I'm just throwing this out, just say you buy a hoopty, right, for $100. Well, you know, you could have bought a top of the line car. Why? Because you got $1 million. You know, I mean, you're a millionaire. You got millions of dollars in the bank. But what did you do? You chose not to use. Oh, somebody. Oh. You chose not to use it, right? You know, you could have, but you chose not to. And so that's the same way with Jesus. When it says, so it's not that Jesus was ignorant. You know, it says that when he says that he didn't know when he was coming back, that was just something that he submitted to the Father. And that was something that he chose not to know, right? It means that he didn't know it. It means that he chose not to know it. Just like if you bought that car, it didn't mean that you can't go out and buy a top of the line car. It means that you just chose to buy another car. So, you know, again, when it says that Jesus didn't know, you know, it means that he chose not to know. And so now somebody will ask, well, what about now? I would say now he knows. When he walked on this earth, you know, he chose not to know. But now he's in heaven. You know, I believe that Jesus knows when he's coming back, right? That him and the Father already got this thing worked out. And one day the Father is going to turn to him and going to say, it's time. And Jesus is coming back. Maybe morning, maybe noon, maybe evening, maybe soon. Coming again. Coming again. Oh, what a wonderful day it will be. Jesus is coming again. He is coming again. In Matthew 24, 42 through 44, watch therefore, for you do not know the hour your Lord comes. But know this, if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would have not suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore, be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. All right, so we are commanded to be watchful. My professor, Dr. Ed Heinzen, you can catch him if you get some of the religious channels. He has a program. I recommend that you watch it. It's called The King is Coming, and it's a prophetic program. But Dr. Heinzen, one of my professors when I was in seminary, I love what he says. He says, don't waste your time trying to guess the time. Jesus could come at any time, so you need to be ready all the time. Somebody ought to be shouting on that one right there. All right. Don't waste your time trying to guess the time. Jesus could come at any time, so you need to be ready all the time. All right. You need to be ready all the time. So as far as date setting in the rapture, that is not something that should be done. And if somebody tells you that they know when, again, I say write them off as a false prophet. Okay, let's look at the time of the rapture. Let's look at the time of the rapture. So we have pre-trib. Okay, let me just go through them. Pre-trib, mid-trib, partial raptures, post-trib, and then pre-wrath. So let's look at the time of the rapture. Now, I would consider myself a pre-trib, pre-tribulation. And what that means is that Jesus will come back before the tribulation starts. So you see that little house there on the left, that's the church, right? The church, and right now we are in the church age, right? That's I believe it started on the day of Pentecost. We are in the church age. So what is the next, according to pre-tribulation, what is the next event on God's calendar? The next event on God's calendar is the rapture, right? Where God snatches us out of this earth. And then once that happens, what takes place on earth? The tribulation, 7-year tribulation. And then we'll be in heaven for those 7 years. And then at the end of the tribulation, Christ will return. Now, you have before you, and I just want to say that I put a lot of work into these notes, and so you have a pretty detailed explanation of these events, and also what you have is the biblical support. So, where is the biblical support for a pre-tribulation rapture? You see all those points that I have after that, right? All the points, and a couple of the key ones, and I like this one right here. Jesus is coming back for his bride, right? He's coming back for his bride. And if the church had to go through the tribulation, what kind of groom would he be? Think about that. If there's a tribulation that's coming, what kind of groom would Jesus be if he let his bride get beat up and get judged if he let them go through the tribulation? So Jesus is coming back to take his bride off of this earth, so that we don't have to go through the tribulation. Now, another thing that's very interesting, and again, you have all those scriptures there. You can read them, and if anybody wants to challenge you on pre-tribulation rapture, you got all those verses right there. But the other thing I like, in Revelation, the book of Revelation, chapters 1 through 4, all we read about is what? The church, the church, the church, the church, the church, the church. In Revelation 19, the church shows up again when Jesus comes back with the saints. We start reading about the church, the church, the church. In Revelation 4 through 19, guess what's not mentioned? One time. You got it. The church, right? Revelation 2 and 3, the church at Ephesus, the church at Smyrna, the church at Sardis, the church at Thyatira, the church at Phil. Man, you got all this talking about is the church. And after Revelation 4, you don't read, as somebody would say, a cotton-picking word about the church, right? You don't read anything about the church until Revelation 19. So where is the church at during the tribulation, where it talks about the bowl judgments, the seal judgments, the trumpet judgments, when it's talking about all those trumpets, hell taking place here on earth, right? The church is gone. So that's why, I would promote, and I believe in a pre-tribulation rapture. I believe that we're getting out of here. And as I heard somebody say, and you heard me say it, I'm not looking for the undertaker, I'm looking for the upper taker. So definitely there is strong evidence in the Bible for a pre-tribulation rapture. Now, the next one is called a mid-tribulation rapture. And it believes that the church will go through half of the tribulation and then be raptured out and then come back with Christ when he returns back to earth. So the church will end up going through half of the tribulation. And you know, again, because I know somebody will ask me, well, where do they find that out? Where do they find that in the Bible? So in your notes, I have 4 different scriptures that they use to show that the church will go through through part of the tribulation. All right. So that's called the mid-tribulation rapture. And then there's what's called the partial tribulation rapture. And what this says is only those who are living right and looking for his coming will go. So when he comes, if you caught up in some kind of sin, if you are fornicating, or you are drunk, or you are caught up in some immoral sin, then you're not going to go. Even though you're a Christian, you're not going to go. Only those who are living right and looking for his coming will go. But then he'll come back again. He'll give you another chance, right? And if you're living right, then you'll go with him. If you're not, you're going to stay here. So this is what's known as the partial rapture theory, that he's only going to take those who are looking for his coming, who are ready to receive him. All right. And then this one right here makes no sense to me. This is the post-tribulation. And it's saying that the church will go through the tribulation. And at the end, they will be raptured out. But it's almost like, you get raptured out, then you turn right around and come back, right? So, this one, right here, but this is one that has been taught throughout the years, a post-tribulation rapture. Again, it says that the church will go all the way through the tribulation and then at the end be taken out, and then Christ will come back. So, again, that one doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me anyways. And then this is a new one here. When I say new, I mean, it's come out within the last 20 or 30 years. And that is the pre-wrath rapture, that believes that the church will go through the tribulation, but toward the end of the tribulation is when God releases all hell on earth. That's when, you got the bold judgments where, people's skin is burning off their flesh, and, you got the waters being turned to blood, the moon, and all that darkened. You have sores, people dealing with sore. I mean, it's just a terrible time, and it's called God's wrath. And so this view says that the church will go through the tribulation until God's wrath, when it just comes to a point where it's heightened, and God is, again, all hell is breaking out on earth, and then that's when God will take the church out. But up until then, they'll go through the tribulation. So these are the different. When you talk about the rapture, these are the different times. Again, there's pre-tribulation, which I believe, and I got to say this. I always joke with y'all, right? I said, you can believe some of these other ones, or you can believe like your pastor and be right, or believe some of the other ones and be wrong. Yeah. So there's pre-tribulation, mid-tribulation, partial, post-tribulation, and then pre-wrath rapture. So those are the times of the rapture. Now, as I close today, we see that throughout Scripture, God calls his people to examine prophecy and let it be a motivating principle for godly living, godly and righteous living. That as we look at prophecy, somebody will say, "Oh, I don't want to study prophecy. It's that's that pie in the sky by and by. I need something to help me live right now." Right? So some people, they just shun prophecy. They throw it off, right? But God says that we should study prophecy and let that be a motivation for godly and righteous living. And do you know this? 1/3 of the Bible. Now you say that you love the Bible, right? 1/3 of the Bible deals with Bible prophecy. 1/3 of the Bible deals with it. So I don't see how we can just choose to say, well, I'm not concerned about prophecy. It's not going to put food on my table. It's not going to help me pay my bills. And some people feel that way. And, I understand. But if God put it in there, we need to study it. That's my philosophy. We can't cherry pick. We can't pick and choose what we want to study. So it's in there. And it should motivate us for godly living. Look what Peter in 2 Peter 3:11. After describing a great prophetic event, the destruction of the heavens, Peter said this: seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought you to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Peter says, seeing that these things are going to happen, how is that motivating you to live a holy and godly life? That's what you need to be thinking about, as to how am I living my life in light of the fact that Jesus is coming back, right? And so I asked the question, how should you live? In light of prophecy, how should you live? All right. And we looked at this last week. You should watch and pray. You should be prayerful, that you're looking for the upper taker and not the undertaker. We should be reminded of the rapture every time we take communion. I talked about that last week. We should encourage one another. Hebrews 10:25. Let me give you these last two thoughts. We should comfort one another. I went to a homegoing today, and as I was at the homegoing, the person that passed away knew the Lord. And when we think, I'm looking up a verse right now, 1 Thessalonians. Let me pull that out, saints. 1 Thessalonians 4. Now, the verse is up there on the screen, but I wanted to read something that comes before that. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Look what he says here. But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning those who are asleep, or those who have died, that you sorrow not, even as others that have no hope. It says, for if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them who are asleep or who have died, that he will bring back with him. So what is the blessed hope? The blessed hope is that Jesus is coming back. The blessed hope is that we're going to see our loved ones again in Christ. Your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, even that child that passed away. You're going to see them again, right? And so Paul said, comfort one another with these things. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel and the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore, comfort one another with these words. Saints, what a blessing. Now, I know that when a loved one dies, at first, we might not want to hear I need them right here. I'm going to miss them. And so we might get a little huffy because we want them with us. But when you get that huffiness out, look at this. You're going to see your loved one again, right? And it says, comfort one another with these words. I tell you what, man, I don't know about you, but I'm comforted by the fact that I'm going to see my mother again, my mom. I'm comforted by the fact that I'm going to see her again, that, I know that she knew the Lord. And when I close my eyes in death, I want to see Jesus. He's the first one that I want to see. And then I think one of the second ones I want to see is my mom, right? And just, talk with her a little bit. And that brings me comfort. I don't have a lot of comfort knowing that I'm not going to see my mother again. But there's great comfort in knowing that I'm going to see her. And so she's going to come back with Jesus at the rapture, you know, because she got to get her body. Her body has to be caught up and transformed. So she's coming back. Her spirit, her soul is coming back with Jesus at the rapture. And she's going to get her body back, transformed, immortal, incorruptible. All right. And then we should walk victoriously in this world. What manner of person ought you to be? How should you live? For the grace of God that bringeth salvation hath appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Looking for the blessed hope. Let that sink in. Looking for the blessed hope and the glorious appearing of our great God, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Notice what he says before he says the appearance. He says that we should deny ungodliness. We should deny worldly lust. We should live soberly. We should live righteously, and we should live godly. That means we should live victorious in this world in light of the fact that Jesus is coming again. Maybe morning, maybe noon, maybe evening, maybe soon. Coming again, coming again. Oh, what a wonderful day it will be. Jesus is coming again. Amen.
Thank you,
All right.
Jesus.
Questions?
Okay.
I know we got a little deep. We got a little deep today, Saints, but you know, sometimes we got to go deep.